started out by laying my chicken thighs onto a parchment paper covered cookie sheet. Next, I drizzled them with olive oil, Crazy Jane's mixed up salt, and pepper. I grabbed some Nashville hot chicken seasoning out of the cabinet and sprinkled that evenly over the top. I put the chicken in the oven at 350 degrees, and while that started to cook, I began to prepare my vegetables. I started by slicing up an onion. I kept them in slices rather than dicing it because I like the texture and flavor that it adds to my veggies, and I just laid those out on a parchment paper covered cookie sheet. Then I went ahead and chopped up a yellow squash just into little circular rounds and added those on top of my onions. You can use whatever kind of veggies you have. I just like to roast any kind of vegetable that I have in my refrigerator and kind of try and create a rainbow effect with as many different vegetables as possible. Next up, I began to dice some radishes and added them to my veggie mix. These I chopped up into slightly smaller pieces than my yellow squash because they're a little bit thicker, and if they're in larger chunks, they can take a little bit longer to cook. Just to add a little bit of extra color, nutrition content, and flavor to my veggie mix, I diced up a red bell pepper and added that into the veggie mix as well. And finally, I went ahead and added a little bit more of my sliced onion on top just because it really does add a great flavor when it's nice and caramelized. I drizzled all of my veggies with olive oil, added some lemon pepper seasoning and Crazy Jane's mixed up salt, and then I just used my hands to mix it all up nice and evenly before throwing it into the oven at 350 degrees with my chicken. Next up, I started to make some salmon for myself because I'm a pescatarian and won't eat the chicken that I was preparing for my boyfriend. So I laid some salmon down on my parchment paper, drizzled it with some olive oil, next I put some salt and pepper on top of my salmon, and finally, I used up the last of what I had of my Essence of Emerald seasoning. It's just kind of an all-purpose flavoring that goes really well on vegetables, fish, and any kind of meat as well. Then my salmon went into the oven at 350 degrees with everything else. While everything was in the oven, I went ahead and started making some sweet potatoes. I'll make a full video on these another time, but essentially I just put some sweet potatoes in my Instant Pot for about 10 minutes and they were good to go. Make sure that you periodically check on your vegetables, stir them, and add additional seasoning as is needed. When your Instant Pot timer goes off, go ahead and release the pressure and make sure that your potatoes are done cooking. And while everything else is still in the oven, go ahead and start chopping up some veggies for snacks throughout the week. We like to snack on raw vegetables throughout the week because it's quick, easy, and healthy. This week we used bell peppers, carrots, celery, and cucumbers, but I also really like to use sugar snap peas and cherry tomatoes if I do have them on hand. Your meal prepping easier for packing lunches throughout the week, go ahead and divide your vegetables up into Ziploc bags or little Tupperware containers. I like to use these reusable baggies just to be environmentally friendly and save money in the long run, and I'll provide a link for these bags in the description below. By this time, everything in the oven should be done or pretty close to being done. Just make sure that your chicken is at least 165 degrees before you pull it out of the oven. I'll provide a link down below for these handy meal prep containers that I bought on Amazon. I always use the largest section for a vegetable, one of the smaller sections for protein, and then fill up the second smaller section with a second vegetable or a starch like potatoes or rice. To make my sweet potatoes just a little bit more exciting, this week I mashed them lightly with a fork, and then I added salt and pepper, some sliced almonds, and goat cheese on top. For Anthony's, I also added some raisins, just because that's what he prefers on his. I had a little bit of extra space left in the containers where I put the vegetables, so I just filled that up with some green beans so they wouldn't be hungry. Then I put the lids in my container so that they could stack nicely in the fridge. So here's everything that I had for the entire week. I had 5 lunches for myself with fish because I come home from work for lunch every day. And I prepped 4 chicken lunches for my boyfriend Anthony because he takes lunch to work 4 days a week. I also did 2 dozen hard-boiled eggs in my Instant Pot, which I will do a full tutorial of another day. We like to do hard-boiled eggs for snacks, to put on salads, and then I also like to take them to work for breakfast. I also had a lot of grapes that I prepared for snacks and to put in yogurt throughout the week. And then of course we had our veggie bags. Now with the chicken that I made, I had a little bit left over, which works out really nicely since I take grad school classes in the evening, leaving Anthony to kind of fend for himself for dinner several nights a week, and that leaves him with some chicken to kind of work with for that. Pack Anthony's lunches before I go to bed at night so he can just grab it and go in the morning before work, and I always put in the prepped container of lunch. I usually send him with a little container of yogurt with granola or cottage cheese, a piece of fruit like a banana or an apple, occasionally some trail mix along with the chopped veggies that I've made. Always include silverware just to be environmentally friendly. And if I'm feeling especially nice, I'll send him with a little note as well. And that is how I prep my lunches for the week and pack lunches a day ahead. Make sure that you like and subscribe for more meal prep videos, and comment below how you do your meal prep, and let me know what kind of recipes you'd like to see in the future. Thanks for watching!